Walter, a 72-year-old real estate mogul, was a man known far and wide, not just for his obscene wealth and sprawling empire, but for his ruthless business practices, cold-hearted evictions, and deeply controversial views. He had long walked through life like the rules never applied to him. In fact, most of the time they didn't. But today at exactly 9 a.m. reality knocked. The bailiff's voice rang out, "All rise." The heavy courtroom doors swung open, and in walked Judge Naomi Pierce. She was just 34 years old, the youngest judge in the district and the first black woman to ever hold the position in over a century. She wasn't just making history, she was history. With her crisp black robe flowing behind her like a cape, Naomi exuded an air of command. Her eyes, deep and unwavering, scanned the room as she approached the bench. Sharp cheekbones framed a face that had known struggle and risen through it. She wasn't born with privilege. She had clawed her way to this seat with hard work, perseverance, and grit. But Walter Gaines wasn't impressed. He lounged at the defendant's table like it was a boardroom, one arm casually draped over the chair, his posture relaxed, almost dismissive. His attorney, Richard Langston, a slick, silver-tongued professional who had helped many powerful men slip through the cracks, leaned in to whisper something. But Walter simply waved him off with the confidence of someone who believed the system had been built to protect him. Naomi took her seat. The room fell into a tense silence. Walter's lips curled into a smirk as he muttered under his breath, but loud enough to carry, "This is a joke. A child playing dress-up." Gasps spread through the courtroom like a virus. Reporters glanced at each other, pens paused mid-note. But Naomi didn't blink. She looked down calmly at her docket and said, "Mr. Gaines, you are here today charged with multiple counts of fraud, tax evasion, and illegal eviction practices. This court expects respect from everyone, regardless of their wealth or reputation. Do I make myself clear?" Walter leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk. "Crystal clear, Your Honor," he said mockingly, the sarcasm thick in his voice. "But let's not kid ourselves, this isn't a court, it's a circus. And you? You're the ringmaster." The tension in the room could have snapped like a rubber band. Naomi held his gaze. She knew what this was. To him, she wasn't just a judge. She was a black woman in power, something men like Walter Gaines had spent their lives trying to suppress. She represented change, justice, and equality, everything he had built his empire to avoid. Her voice was like ice. "Mr. Gaines, this is my courtroom. If you cannot treat it, and me, with the respect it deserves, I will not hesitate to hold you in contempt." Walter chuckled darkly. "You can't be serious." Naomi leaned forward slightly, her stare sharp enough to cut glass. "Oh, I am very serious." Silence. Only the scratching of pens and the distant hum of the ceiling fan. Walter's smirk faltered, just for a second. "Let's get this over with," he muttered, crossing his arms like a defiant schoolboy. As the trial began, it quickly became clear that Walter's ego would be his downfall. He rolled his eyes during testimonies, scoffed at witnesses, and even laughed out loud during the prosecution's opening remarks. Naomi remained composed, but inside, her blood boiled. She had sacrificed so much to get here. Nights buried in law books. Doors slammed in her face. People doubting her, underestimating her. And now she had to preside over this monster. The courtroom saw its most heartbreaking moment when the prosecution called Mrs. Clara Johnson to the stand. Clara was an elderly black woman in her 70s, dressed in her Sunday best. Her hands trembled slightly as she took the oath. Her eyes were full of sadness, but also resilience. She had lived in one of Walter's buildings for over 3 decades, raising her children there, celebrating birthdays and anniversaries. It wasn't just a house, it was home. Then one day she got a notice. She was being evicted, no warning, no compassion. Walter wanted to tear it down for a luxury condo complex. When she had begged him for more time, he'd laughed in her face. "I begged him," Clara said, her voice cracking as tears welled up. "I told him I had nowhere to go. I had no one. But he didn't care. He just told me to get out." Walter burst out laughing, a cold, cutting sound that echoed off the walls. "She's lying," he scoffed. "Everyone knows people like her will say anything for a paycheck." Gasps again. Even Langston looked uneasy. Naomi's gavel struck the bench like a lightning bolt. "Mr. Gaines, that is enough," she thundered. He shrugged. "What?" "It's true. Naomi stood, her voice low and lethal. "Bailiff, escort Mr. Gaines to the holding cell. He's in contempt of court." Walter's face turned red. "You can't do that." "I just did," Naomi snapped. As the bailiff led him away, the courtroom erupted in applause. Naomi banged her gavel for order, but inside, she felt a quiet fire of vindication. For the first time in his life, Walter Gaines faced consequences. The trial resumed the next morning. Walter was back, but now he was angry. He glared at Naomi like she had personally destroyed his empire. During a recess he hissed, "You think you've won? People like me don't lose." Naomi didn't respond, but his words echoed in her mind. She knew men like him. Men who thought wealth was armor, arrogance a shield. But truth had a funny way of piercing through both. Then came closing arguments. The prosecution unveiled one final bombshell, a set of emails Walter had foolishly sent himself. In them, he instructed his team to evict tenants by any means necessary. He didn't care who was affected. It was profit over people every time. The jury didn't take long. When the verdict was read, guilty on all counts, Walter didn't move. His face drained of color. Then, slowly he stood and pointed at Naomi. "This isn't over," he spat. "You'll regret this." Naomi met his eyes. "The only thing I regret," she said calmly, "is that it took this long for justice to catch up with you." Walter Gaines was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. His real estate empire collapsed under lawsuits, investigations, and public outrage. Naomi became a national figure overnight. Headlines praised her poise, her strength, her refusal to bend under pressure. But for her, it wasn't about recognition. It was about doing what was right. A few months later, a small envelope arrived in her chambers. No return address, just her name written in careful script. Inside was a letter. Simple. Handwritten. "Thank you for standing up for people like me. You gave me hope. Clara Johnson." Naomi smiled and placed the letter gently in her desk drawer. She knew the fight wasn't over. There would be more battles, more Walter Gaineses. But today, justice had spoken. And its voice was hers.